What's up world, it's the Javelin Breakdown, and today I'm going to be reacting to my final collegiate meet, which was Division III Nationals back in 2018. So it's a little bit of a reaction video and analysis, and this is the format that I'd like to bring to YouTube this season. So if you're interested in having me react or analyze your throws, feel free to send me a message on Instagram with clips from your competition. Without further ado, let's get started. So let's just watch through the throws here, and then we can kind of go throw by throw and get more specific with the analysis. So a little bit of context. So this is my senior nationals. I graduated in 2018. During my career at Messiah, I went to nationals every year. So I think 2015, my first nationals, I got 11th. 2016, I got 10th. 2017, I got 14th. So my senior nationals, it was really important for me to try to get top 8. That had been my goal for all my time in college. It's your senior nationals, it's your last chance. So it was really on my mind to give it a go here and really go out, having accomplished a goal that I had had for my entire college career. You know, unfortunately, after a really strong first throw, I just tried too hard the whole rest of the competition, and watching these clips back just reminds me of that. You know, the magic of the javelin throw comes from the ability to create a lot of power, but you need to be able to express it with finesse. There's a degree of control that you need to have, and precision in application of that force. And so one of my favorite ways to kind of visualize this is, if you wanted to kind of flick someone with your finger, there'd be a lot more power if you do this than if you just like try to tap them, right? And so the willful movement of the finger here is not as powerful as this. So in watching these throws, you can just see how much willful effort of that right side, is in the throw, and that's not what you want. You want an involuntary reaction. You want to hold your left side, let that right side move in response to the ground, and I kind of did that on my first throw, and you can just see through the competition, I don't quite get back to that place, and so that's why all the throws are high 50s. And I don't quite put it together. Unfortunately, my first throw was good, but it was 5 inches or 12 centimeters too short. So I threw 62.23. The guy that got 8th place threw a little bit more. And I had like a 1.5 foot of space at the front of the runway, which, it just haunts me. Just a tiny bit, but that's all right. That's all right. If you want more on that, you can watch the whole Nationals vlog, and you can learn about the kind of mentality behind the day, and kind of how I responded to that adversity and frustration. But anyways, let's get back to the throws and the technical analysis. One of the things that I think I did well, and I say always, but often did well, is manage my approach. And so your approach should allow you to get up to a speed that allows you to express your maximum power and technical ability. It should put the javelin in a good position, setting you up for success. You want to get to a pretty good speed in your initial approach so that your crossovers are just building ever so slightly. You don't want to go from like 0 to 5 and then get your crossovers and go from 5 to 10. You want to get to nearly your top speed, and then your crossovers just hold / build slightly, and then you punch it on the penultimate with that fast rhythm. So just watching my approach here on this first throw, you can see a nice acceleration in the initial steps. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, transition 1, 2, 3. And so I accelerate ever so slightly in the crossovers and punch it on the penultimate. And javelin control is really strong, and that just comes from doing lots of approach reps. I'm a big fan of doing crossovers where the javelin just sits in my palm instead of gripping it. That's harder, and so that makes the real approach that much easier when you make the practice approaches more challenging. So yeah, approach wise, really happy with that. Now let's look at the front of the runway. So at the end of your approach, we have our penultimate step. We're familiar with that. So we want to have a rapid getting off the left foot, right left foot, and then your right foot to left foot should be really quick. So if we look at mine, when I land on my right foot here, so there's right foot contact. If we're being generous, my left and my right foot are together. I think my left foot's behind a little bit, right? What we want to see is that left foot ahead of the right foot so that we can go right foot, left foot, right? Da-da, boom. And if I'm here, it's going to take longer for that to get out. And the longer that takes, the slower the whole reaction is. And so the best throws in history definitely have some of the fastest right to lefts recorded. And that rhythm is really important. And my rhythm's not terrible by any stretch. I still threw over 200 feet. But that impacted my ability to throw even farther. So you want to have a fast right to left. Your penultimate rhythm has to be strong. You have to get off that left foot and get to your lock. Okay, so we go from back foot Okay, let's watch the back foot contact behavior. So as you're moving towards the block, what you want to see is you want to see that foot and that knee turn over to bring the hip into position. So if you're familiar with the concept of hip-shoulder separation, right? So if I go ahead to my block, you want your hip to be ahead of your shoulder. That right there is ahead of the shoulder here. And so what that's creating is stretch through this whole region, which I'm able to leverage to deliver the javelin. So getting this point here, this hip point ahead, is critical. And the way to do that is this knee and this foot. If you just stand up, right? If you turn your hip, you're going to turn your upper body, right? Your upper body's connected to your hips. So an intentional movement of the hips, right, is going to move the shoulders. But if I move my foot and my knee, my hip can move without my upper body moving, right? So by getting this foot turned over, whether you land perpendicular or parallel to the throwing direction, and you get your knee down, so that kneecap pointed towards the ground, this action here that's happening from contact onward, that's what's bringing the hip into position without changing the upper body. Now, I'm being impatient here. You can see that this left shoulder is running away. I want to keep the Messiah logo on my shirt and my shoulder in view here. I want to keep all of that to the camera so that my hip is here and my shoulders here for this, maximum separation. But unfortunately, I'm getting impatient even in this one. And so I'm pulling away this way, which brings my whole upper body too far forward. Javelin position from the approach is pretty strong. I wish it was down a little bit. And then because of the way that the next few frames go, the javelin's going to get lifted even higher. So my release angle wasn't great on this throw. It's close to a good position, I should say. And then there's my block leg. Really happy with the initial contact here in terms of like how straight this is. This is great. Now, one thing that I would like to improve is if you think about where my foot is, I'm on a tightrope here. I'm on a balance beam. So I wish the left foot was farther over. If I could have had my left foot like here, that would create more stability. So think about if you're on a balance beam and someone comes up behind you and pushes you, you're going to fall over. But if you're standing on the ground and you put your feet really far apart, like you're doing like a split, and someone comes to push you, you have so much more leverage to maintain your position because of your stance, right? Your base of support is bigger. So in the same way, my base of support here is insufficient for the position. As my hip moves into the throw and then my chest and everything, I'm going to have a crumple zone like a car in a car crash because the foot is pointed this way instead of straight or slightly down the left sector. Alright, so now that I drew these lines, you can see the blue is where I am at initial contact and the yellow is where I am when I deliver the javelin. And so that's not good. You want your hip, your right hip's going to internally rotate into your left side as a right-handed thrower. And you want all that to stay put while your upper body is being flung over the top. Your upper body is going to come over your hips afterwards. Whereas in my throw, you're seeing everything is getting crunched forward and that foundation is shifting underneath me. And you don't want that. You want your foundation to hold true. In the same way with my analogy with this here, right? Like think of my hand and my wrist and my arm as support for this flinging action. So if any kind of damage is happening to the foundation, the power that I can express in flinging my finger is manipulated. So in the same way, my base of support here, any change to this during this moment is negatively impacting the throw. A couple contributing factors to that. One, the speed of your right to left helps with setting up your left side. If you have a slow right to left, that makes it harder to hold the position. So having a fast right to left makes a difference. Having a good position of the foot and angle of that. So my block angle, I was too narrow with my feet and my foot's not pointed in a good direction. And then I'm being impatient with that left shoulder. So I'm dipping downward already into the throw and that's going to lead to me crumpling forward. Whereas if I would have stayed back and tall and up, with this left shoulder, that would have, I think, helped me out as well. You know, we're nitpicking pretty aggressively here. This was my best throw and was over 200 feet for a reason. There's still a fair amount being done. So it was a good start to the competition, and it was my best first throw ever, which is a big deal. But unfortunately, from here, I just tried too hard. So just kind of looking through the rest of the throws here, you're going to see just getting after it way too much. Also, it made a dumb choice and was just like, well, let me throw the countervail carbon that Seth had from George Fox because I had thrown it before and really liked it. But it's Nationals is not the time to just throw things you don't normally throw. Now look at this throw. You can barely read Messiah. I'm way too open. My chest is dumped way forward. So now I'm just going to absolutely collapse. I'm going to crash. And then you can see the rolling of my ankle down here. And so that's definitely a byproduct of a narrow block and the toe pointed in the wrong direction. And that's my fault. but I do want to blame soccer for part of that. I played soccer for 15 years, and I was a goalkeeper, so I feel like the mechanics of the goal kick, of just like hitting the ball as far as you can and throwing your foot down, I feel like my javelin left foot behavior is very soccer-esque. And that's been very difficult my whole career. Alright, so let's look at this third throw. Same thing. Look at that shoulder. It's just too far ahead. And so I'm getting pulled forward into the throw instead of staying back, catching the tension. So my hip-shoulder separation isn't great. And then you can see I'm crawling over my block here. Look at that foot just crunching, so the base of support is weak. And I'm like, if we had a camera angle from behind, I would look like this. I mean, I'm just totally crumpled. Let's look at this next one. So yeah, this was almost 60, 59.86. So maybe this one was a little better. Let's see. I really like my separation. Like, I was never that mobile, so seeing a longer pull out of myself in these is cool to see. I was in great shape. I was ready to rock, and I just, gosh, had I been more patient and just let the throw happen, I would have been there, because I was peaked. I was ready. I was in great physical shape, like I said. The key to executing most of the time when you're in that kind of shape is just turn your brain off and just execute. You don't need to force things. You don't need to get all emotionally gunned up, but I was so charged up. I was ready for all-out war, and instead I needed to just take a breath and let the javelin and I be, synchronized. Yeah, look at the way I'm coming over the throw. You can see just like how I'm exiting the throw here. My hips are rising through the delivery, so then I pop up like this. You just don't want to see that. That's not indicative of a good positions. And then here's my final collegiate throw. And again, just trying way too hard. At this point, I knew I was in 9th place, so it was do or die. And instead of being patient, I just come up here and absolutely smash the javelin, which is so frustrating, because look at how patient, look at the length. Like, I am capable of getting a great pull, but instead you can see I'm starting to like get under it here in a forceful way. I'm really breaking at the lower body there, and so I just strike this with my arm, which makes 57 even more impressive, but lame, because it would have been a good throw had I just been patient. But that is the battle. That's the battle that we face as javelin throwers. Kind of recapping, I'm happy watching my approach in these and my control of the javelin prior to the penultimate, and then at the front of the runway. It's really cool to see the shape I was in and the positions I was almost getting into, but the bane of my existence, trying too hard, got the better of me on an important day. But you live and you learn, and I'm trying to pass this on to you guys. So a helpful thing to look at, kind of, because I'm talking about this stuff. So if we look at Jan Zalesny a second, for comparison to the things I was doing. So here's his takeoff for his left foot, penultimate, and there's his right foot, right? So that left foot is way ahead of the right. So the speed at which the position is coming together is significant. And then we've got hip ahead, right? So we can see there's like the white and then the black and red of the singlet. So we can see like there's the apex of his hip, and then his shoulder's way behind that, and his arm is way behind that. And so there's so much stretch there. But let's watch his hips stay in position. So through here, his hips are not moving. Like his right hip internally rotates and then it's just stuck there, and his upper body is flipping over. So we got the reverse C here, and then if we cycle forward, we've got front C. And the only way that happens is if your base stays really solid. And so he is rock solid there. Energy is able to transfer up and out because of the stability of this position. And then watch his recovery step. So in response to the throw, some people call this a donkey kick. So he gets tossed over the block by the final kind of bits of energy and momentum that are left over, because he's behind everything. He's holding that lower body solid, and then in response he goes over that. Versus rushing the throw, being forward, and then just kind of being already forward at the end of the throw. The only way to get taken over like that is if you're behind the throw and solid with your left side. So one more clip here. You're seeing that right hip, that right shoulder delay, being really patient, setting him up for big stretch. Look at the way that his hips are holding the position. Look at the stability of this left side, being tall, and then in response, he's getting tossed over. He's not forcing that. He's not intentionally doing those steps. He's getting into a position that leaves him no choice but to reactively deliver to the javelin, and then he's using coordination to carry that momentum and save the throw. Anybody that forces your recovery step, you're going to get into weird positions. You got to let things just come together, which is really challenging to do. All right, that's my reactions to my final collegiate meet. If you want me to react and analyze your throws, you can send me a message on Instagram. I can't guarantee that I will get to your throws because I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of messages, but I will try to get to as many as I can and produce some cool videos for you guys this season. As always, best of luck, and remember to enjoy the journey.